of March turned out to be a scintillating one for enthusiasts of Gérald Genta's design ethos, since it not only marked the announcement of the return of his eponymous brand under the auspices of Louis Vuitton at La Fabrique du Temps, their high horology, high complications workshop. But this week also brought us as one of the novelties of Watches and Wonders 2023, one of Gérald Genta's signature designs, namely the IWC Ingenieur. The IWC Ingenieur belongs to that genre-defining integrated bracelet, stainless steel, sports watches that are usually known under the names of Audemars Piguet Royal Oak or Patek Philippe Nautilus. But as it happens, the IWC Ingenieur was a watch that Gérald Genta designed in 1974, and that IWC released almost contemporaneously with the Patek Philippe Nautilus, and a mere 4 years after the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak in 1976. And you can see here Evelyn Genta, Gérald Genta's widow, with the original designs and sketches of the model. IWC had a very specific mandate for Gérald Genta. Ingenieur was an existing product line within the company's catalog, and it was a working man's watch, just like the name connotes, an engineer's watch, a technical watch, a tool watch, as we sometimes like to call it still today. And it had important anti-magnetic properties. So the stipulation was that Genta would design for IWC a round-cased integrated bracelet, stainless steel watch that preserved those anti-magnetic properties, and the result was the Ingenieur SL, SL standing for steel line, with the reference number 1832. And it had, in a very important sense, this design that, of course, harkens back to Gérald Genta's octagonal bezel design for the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, that takes after the helmet of a scaphandre-style diving suit. And as you can see, even though the piece is distinguished by that interplay between polished and satin brush surfaces that pretty much defines the genre, the execution of the finish here is much more subtle and austere compared to both the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak and the Patek Philippe Nautilus. And you see, in addition to that, scaphandre helmet style bezel that has these distinctive 5 recesses, and that is screwed onto the case. You also have this distinctive checkered grid-like guilloche design on the dial that evokes either the pattern of carbon fiber or the texture, the design of graph paper, which again goes back to this ethos of design, of industrialism, of working environment that this watch was intended towards, that this watch addressed itself to. And of course, that bolt was incorporated into the logo of the watch as if to mark the anti-magnetic properties of the case. Over the years, the Ingenieur line was updated and revised in a number of different ways, executed in various metals. It has shrunk and became the skinny Ingenieur. It has grown and became the big Ingenieur. And today, in the last week of March 2023, it comes back to us at the conjunction of form and techniques, at the crossroads of aesthetics and utility. And here is the new IWC Ingenieur Automatic 40. As you can see, on the one hand, it is presented as a relatively faithful reproduction of the original that was released in 1976 as the Ingenieur SL. However, when you really think about it, the design is much more like a hybrid between the original and later designs that had grown bigger in size, but had these muscular elements, so to speak, such as the crown guards that were in fact preserved for this version, even as the proportions of the case were brought back to those original dimensions. 40 millimeters of case diameter, 45.7 millimeter lug-to-lug width, so a watch that can sit on a number of different wrist sizes and can fit into various styles and environments. And at 10.8 millimeters thick, it's also relatively sleek in terms of its profile. So certainly it is a piece that lives up not only to that industrial design and technical ethos that the Ingenieur line was dedicated from the 50s onwards and preserved in 70s design. Today, you have a watch that presents a unique and important revival of the 70s sports genre with slight updates. A few of those updates are a little more utilitarian, and they really meet together at that phrase that IWC used in German, Form und Technik, at the conjuncture of form and techniques, aesthetics and utility. For example, the bezel is now screwed in to the case with 5 polygonal bolts, which align the bezel always perfectly with the top screw at the 12 o'clock position. The pattern on the dial has been updated and exploded in a way that really resonates with how Audemars Piguet Royal Oak's tapisserie design has evolved through the years. Of course, Audemars Piguet has preserved the jumbo and what is now called the petite tapisserie in terms of its fine detail that is applied with the pantograph, but across the line, when you look at the royal oak, of course, the pattern has grown in size, grown proportionally, and become later grande tapisserie or even mega tapisserie in certain executions of the royal oak offshore. In this case, I think this is somewhat predictable by IWC and entirely in line with contemporary developments. They have used a style of the same pattern that is much more distinct and much less fine. And there are 3 variations of the stainless steel model. One that harkens to that original carbon fiber-like black dial design. One that has a silver dial and has a very uniform look, and we can say the sportiest one that has a dial which IWC calls the aqua, and which has this sort of mix of blue and green that we can simply call teal. And to accentuate that brightness, that pop of color, in fact, the finishing here has been executed in a much more contrasting manner, where the center links of the bracelet are much more distinctively mirror polished. And you can see how in earlier generations there was that graph paper-like design on the dial. So you can see various inspirations that tie back the design of this watch to that industrial design aesthetic, to that to the echoes of sketching, drawing, planning, and plotting. And I think it's a great way for IWC to join what has been a horological arms race in this particular segment, which is, of course, the integrated bracelet, mostly stainless steel, sports chic watch. This is the reference 328902 with the silver dial. The black one was the 328901. They're all presented with a closed case back, which means that the watch retains its anti-magnetic properties, which is, of course, reinforced with a soft iron inner case, sealing what one calls, of course, in technical terms, a Faraday cage. Within the watch ticks an IWC 32111 caliber, which admittedly is only 2 degrees removed from the workhorse ETA 2894-A2, but it is elaborated and improved upon enough where you end up with a high performance self-winding caliber that beats at 4 Hertz 28,800 semi-oscillations per hour, with a power reserve that extends to full 5 days at 120 hours. And the piece is water resistant up to 100 meters, 10 bars of a depth rating. And here you can see the aqua version, the reference number 328903. with its more contrasting, more playful, brighter, and luxurious look. As you can see, that interplay between the mirror polished and grain brush surfaces is extended to the entire body of the watch, including the bracelet, with the center links taking the center stage. The bracelet has been also updated, which makes it much more ergonomically comfortable and more universally wearable. And finally, with the reference that is fully executed in titanium case and bracelets, that is reference number 328904. You have a quartet of integrated bracelet watches by IWC that make a very strong claim to the market. The pricing is very straightforward when it comes to the stainless steel models. Across the board, the black dial, the silver dial, and the aqua has been listed for $11,700 in US dollars. The titanium piece carries something of a premium to the tune of a few $1,000s, and it is listed at $14,600. If you have liked this video, please hit the upvote button, subscribe if you haven't, and share it far and wide to help me reach my goal of 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. And stay tuned for more content on the novelties from Watches and Wonders 2023 and on our shared passion for wristwatches.